The stars looked different in this part of space. Captain Zarathek pressed her long fingers against the cool metal of the viewing window and stared out into the black. Her ship, the Kethmaran, had been flying through empty space for 3 days. Now, they were between star systems in the cold void where nothing should exist. But something did exist out here. "Captain," called Dr. Hulon from his station. The Christek's voice made a soft ringing sound when he spoke. His crystal body caught the light from the ship's controls and threw rainbow colors across the walls. "The object is still there. It has not moved?" Zarathek turned away from the window. Her purple skin looked pale under the ship's lights. The Velthari were known across the galaxy for being brave explorers, but even she felt nervous about what they had found. "How big is it?" she asked. Engineer Brixval looked up from her controls. The insect-like Threnny clicked her mandibles together as she thought. "Very big, Captain, much bigger than our ship. Maybe 10 times bigger." "And it is old," added Dr. Hulon. "Very, very old. My instruments say it has been floating here for 50,000 years, maybe more." 50,000 years. Zarathek shook her head. That was before most of the galaxy's great civilizations had learned to fly between the stars, before her own people had left their homeworld, before anyone had formed the Galactic Archaeological Consortium that now paid for expeditions like this one. "Captain," said Yira from the communication station. The Nereid's blue skin glistened under the lights. Water dripped from the tubes that helped her breathe in the ship's dry air. "I have been trying to contact the object for 6 hours now. No response. It is completely silent." Zarathek walked to the center of the bridge. Around her, the 4 members of her team worked at their stations. They were all different species, all from different worlds, but they had worked together for 3 years now. They were good at finding old things in space and figuring out what they were. But this was different from anything they had found before. "Show me the images again," Zarathek said. The main screen lit up with pictures of the mysterious object. It was clearly a ship, but not like any ship in their databases. The hull was smooth and curved, almost like it had grown instead of being built. Strange markings covered its surface. The symbols looked like writing, but they did not match any language the consortium had ever recorded. "It is beautiful," whispered Ira. She was right. The ship was beautiful in a strange way. It looked both ancient and advanced at the same time. The curves of its hull caught starlight and reflected it in patterns that seemed almost alive. "Any energy readings?" asked Zarathek. "None," said Brixval. "The ship is completely dead. No power, no heat, no radiation, nothing. But it is not damaged," added Dr. Hulon. "The hull looks perfect. No holes, no cracks, no signs of battle or accident." Zarathek nodded slowly. This was the mystery that had been bothering her for 3 days. How could a ship this old be in such perfect condition? And why was it floating here, so far from any star system? "Captain," said Brixval, "I have finished the deep scans. The ship has atmosphere inside. Old atmosphere, but still breathable for most species." "That is impossible," said Dr. Hulon. "After 50,000 years, any atmosphere should have leaked out into space." "The hull must be very strong," said Brixval. "Stronger than anything we know how to make." Zarathek felt a chill run down her spine. Advanced technology from 50,000 years ago, this could change everything they knew about galactic history. "What about the size of the ship?" she asked. "How many beings could it hold?" "Hard to say," replied Brixval. "But the corridors and rooms look like they were made for beings about your size, Captain. Maybe a little taller." 2 arms, 2 legs, added Dr. Hulon, studying his readings. "Probably a head on top, like most civilized species." Yura made a soft bubbling sound that meant she was thinking hard. "Captain, I have been looking at those markings on the hull. They are definitely writing, but they are not like any writing I have ever seen. The patterns are different." "Different how?" asked Zarathek. "Most writing systems in the galaxy follow certain rules, but these markings break those rules. It is like whoever made them thought about language in a completely different way." Dr. Hulon's crystal body flickered with excitement. This could be evidence of a completely unknown civilization, a civilization that existed before any of our records begin. Zarathek looked around at her team. They were all excited but also nervous. Finding something this old and mysterious was the dream of every archaeologist, but it was also dangerous. They had no idea what they might find inside that ship. "Captain," said Brixval, "there is something else. The ship's design, it does not look like it was built for war. No weapons that I can see, no armor plating. It looks more like..." "Like what?" asked Zarathek. "Like an exploration ship. Like our ship, but much bigger." Zarathek made her decision. "Prepare the boarding pods. We are going aboard." The team exchanged looks. This was what they had all been hoping for and dreading at the same time. "All of us?" asked Yura. "All of us," said Zarathek. "If this ship is as important as I think it is, we need all our skills. Dr. Hulan, bring your archaeological equipment. Brixval, bring engineering tools. Yira, bring the portable communications array." "What about safety protocols?" asked Dr. Hulan. "Full environmental suits," said Zarathek. "We take no chances. If that ship has been floating here for 50,000 years, we have no idea what we might find inside." As her team prepared for the boarding mission, Zarathek looked once more at the image of the ancient ship on their screen. Something about it called to her, as if it had been waiting all these long years for someone to find it. She just hoped they were ready for whatever secrets it might hold. The boarding pod moved slowly through space toward the ancient ship. Inside the small craft, Captain Zarathek and her team sat in their environmental suits, watching through the thick windows as the mysterious vessel grew larger and larger. "Look at the size of it," whispered Brixval through her suit's communication system. The engineer's compound eyes were wide with amazement. "Our entire ship could fit inside just one section." Dr. Hulan's crystal body glowed softly inside his special suit. "The construction is remarkable. Look at how smooth the hull is. No welding marks, no joints. It is as if the entire ship was grown from a single piece of metal." Yura checked her instruments. Still no energy readings from the ship. It is completely dead. Zarathek piloted the pod toward what looked like an airlock on the ship's side. The ancient vessel's hull reflected the light from their pod's engines, creating strange patterns that seemed to move across the surface. "There," she said, pointing to a rectangular outline in the hull. "That has to be an entrance." As they got closer, they could see that the entrance was sealed tight. Strange symbols were carved around its edges, the same kind of writing they had seen covering the rest of the ship. "Can we open it?" asked Zarathek. Brixval studied her instruments. "The mechanism looks simple enough, but it might be locked from the inside." "Try it," said Zarathek. The engineer extended the pod's mechanical arm and touched a section of the hull near the entrance. To everyone's surprise, the ancient door responded immediately. It slid open without a sound, revealing a dark chamber. "Beyond!" "That was too easy," said Dr. Hulan nervously. "Maybe whoever built this ship wanted visitors to be able to enter," suggested Yura. Zarathek guided the pod into the airlock. The chamber was just big enough to hold their small craft. And soon as they were inside, the outer door closed behind them. For a moment, everything was dark and silent. Then lights began to turn on. "Incredible," breathed Dr. Hulan. "After 50,000 years, the systems still work." The lights were soft and warm, not harsh like the lights on most ships. They made the airlock feel welcoming instead of threatening. "Atmosphere check," said Brixval, reading her instruments. "The air in here is old but breathable. Oxygen, nitrogen, some trace gases. Safe for all our species. Temperature is good too," added Yura. "Not too hot, not too cold." Zarathek made her decision. "We keep our suits on anyway. No taking chances." They left the pod and stepped into the airlock. The inner door opened as easily as the outer one had. Beyond it lay a corridor that stretched away into the distance. The corridor was beautiful. The walls curved gently, and soft lights followed the ceiling in smooth lines. Everything was clean and undamaged, as if the ship had been built yesterday instead of 50,000 years ago. The builders were about our size, observed Dr. Hulon, measuring the height of the corridor. Maybe a little taller on average. 2 meters, I would guess, said Brixval. And look at this. She pointed to markings on the walls. More of the strange writing, but also something else. Simple pictures that seemed to show directions. A map system, said Yura excitedly. Even after all this time, we can still understand. Their directions. They followed the corridor deeper into the ship. Side passages branched off in all directions, leading to rooms and chambers they could not see. The main corridor continued straight ahead, gently curving as it followed the shape of the ship's hull. This ship is huge, said Brixval after they had been walking for 10 minutes. How many beings did it carry? Thousands, guessed Dr. Hulon. Maybe tens of thousands. They passed rooms that looked like living quarters. Each one was small but comfortable, with what appeared to be sleeping areas and personal spaces. Everything was empty now, but not in a way that suggested disaster or panic. It looked more like the occupants had simply left in an orderly fashion. Where did they all go? Wondered Yura. Maybe they reached their destination, suggested Zarathek. Maybe this was a colony ship. They continued deeper into the vessel. The corridor began to open up into larger spaces. They passed what looked like meeting rooms, work areas, and storage chambers. Everything was designed with the same gentle curves and soft lighting. The technology is advanced, observed Brixval, studying the walls. But it does not look like our technology. They thought about engineering differently than we do. Look at this, called Dr. Hulon from a side chamber. The others joined him in what appeared to be some kind of laboratory. Strange instruments lined the walls, and tables held devices they could not identify. Scientific equipment, said Dr. Hulon with certainty. But designed for experiments I do not recognize. Yura touched one of the instruments carefully. It feels warm, as if it might still work. Do not activate anything, warned Zarathek. We do not know what any of this does. They left the laboratory and continued down the main corridor. The ceiling was getting higher now, and the space was opening up even more. They were approaching something important. Captain, said Brixval, checking her instruments. I am reading a large chamber ahead. Very large. They walked faster now, eager to see what lay at the heart of the ancient ship. The corridor ended in a huge archway that opened into the biggest room any of them had ever seen inside a spacecraft. The chamber was enormous. The ceiling disappeared into darkness high above them. Tall structures filled the space, reaching up like metal trees. Each structure was covered in what looked like control panels and display screens, all dark and silent. A command center, whispered Zarathek, but nothing like any command center I have ever seen. The structures were arranged in a circle around a central platform. On the platform sat a single chair, facing a console that was different from all the others. This console was smaller, more personal. It looked like it was designed for one specific person to use. The captain's station, said Dr. Hulon with certainty. They walked slowly across the vast chamber. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. As they got closer to the central platform, more lights began to turn on automatically. The tall structures around them started to glow softly, as if they were waking up. Should we be worried about this? Asked Yura nervously. The ship is responding to our presence, said Brixval. But I do not detect any weapons or defensive systems. They climbed the steps to the central platform. The captain's chair was empty, but it looked like it had been designed for someone specific. The armrests were worn smooth by use, and the console in front of it showed signs of being operated by the same person for many years. Whoever sat here spent a lot of time in this chair, observed Dr. Hulon. Zarathek approached the console carefully. It was covered with symbols and controls, all dark and inactive. She could see that it was incredibly complex, far more advanced than anything her own ship used. Can we activate it? She asked Brixval. The engineer studied the console with her instruments. Maybe, but I do not understand how any of it works. The technology is completely different from ours. Try touching something simple, suggested Dr. Hulon. Maybe a control that looks like it might turn things on. Zarathek reached out carefully and touched what looked like a large, smooth button on the console's surface. Nothing happened. She tried another control, then another. The console remained dark and silent. It must require specific authorization, said Brixval. Maybe only certain people could operate it. Or maybe the power systems are too old, suggested Yira. Even if the lights work, the main computers might be dead. They spent an hour exploring the command center, but nothing they tried could bring the systems to life. The ship seemed willing to provide light and air for visitors, but its secrets remained locked away. We need to explore more of the ship, said Zarathek finally. Maybe we can find clues about who built this vessel and where they went. As they prepared to leave the command center, Yira stopped at her portable communications equipment. Captain, I want to try something. My universal translator has a new experimental mode. It is designed to detect language patterns in electromagnetic radiation. Go ahead, said Zarathek. Yira activated the device and pointed it at the silent console. For a moment nothing happened. Then something did. Yira's experimental translator hummed softly as it scanned the silent console. The device was new technology, designed to find hidden language patterns in electromagnetic fields that most equipment could not detect. She had never used it on anything this old before. Anything? Asked Captain Zarathek, watching the small screen on Yira's device. Wait, said Yira, adjusting the controls. There is something. Very faint, but there. The translator's screen showed waves of energy, like ripples, in water. Most of them were random, meaningless. But some of the waves had patterns. Regular patterns that looked almost like language, whispered Dr. Hulan. Those patterns look like language. Suddenly, the ship's speakers crackled to life. The sound made all 4 team members jump. After hours of complete silence, any noise was shocking. Static filled the air. Then, through the interference, came something else. A voice. The voice was faint and broken, cutting in and out like a bad radio signal. It spoke in a language none of them had ever heard before. The words were strange, with sounds that their universal translators could not identify. What is it saying? Asked Brixval nervously. I do not know, replied Yira, working frantically with her equipment. The language is completely unknown. My translator cannot understand any of it. The voice continued speaking. It sounded tired, confused. There were long pauses between words, as if whoever was speaking was having trouble remembering how to talk. It sounds alive, said Dr. Hulan quietly. Not like a recording, like someone is actually speaking right now. That is impossible, said Brixval. This ship has been empty for 50,000 years. The voice stopped suddenly. The speakers went silent again. For a moment, the only sound was the humming of Yira's translator. Then the voice spoke again. But this time, it was different. The words were still in the unknown language, but they sounded clearer, more focused, as if the speaker was becoming more awake. Try responding, suggested Zarathek. Yira activated her communication system. Hello, she said in Galactic Standard. Can you understand us? The ship went completely silent. Even the static stopped. They waited. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. Then the voice returned. This time it spoke slowly and carefully in broken Galactic Standard. Who are you? The team looked at each other in amazement. Someone or something on this ancient ship was actually talking to them. My name is Yira, she replied carefully. We are explorers from the Galactic Archaeological Consortium. We found your ship floating in space. Another long pause, then, How long have I been asleep? Your ship has been here for 50,000 years, said Yira gently. The silence that followed was so long that they thought the voice might be gone forever. When it spoke again, there was deep sadness in the words. 50,000. That is, not possible, it cannot be that long. I am sorry, said Yira, but our instruments are very accurate. Your ship is very old. My ship, the voice repeated slowly. Yes, my ship. I remember now. The Horizon's promise. I am Captain Elena Vasquez. Dr. Hulan's crystal body flickered with excitement. A name. We have a name. Captain Vasquez, said Yira carefully. What happened to your ship? Where is your crew? The pause was shorter this time, but filled with pain. Dead. All dead. The plague took them. One by one they died. I put myself in emergency stasis. To protect the ship. To protect the mission. What mission? Asked Zarathek, stepping closer to Yira's communication equipment. Colony mission, replied Elena's voice, growing stronger as she spoke. Earth was dying. Pollution, climate change, wars. We were sent to find a new home. To start over. Earth? Said Dr. Hulan. I have never heard of any world called Earth. You would not know it, said Elena sadly. It was very far from here. In a system you probably call by numbers instead of names. Brixval was checking her databases frantically. I cannot find any record of a species or civilization that matches this description. That is because we never made contact with other intelligent life, explained Elena. We knew you existed. We saw signs of space travel, radio signals, evidence of great civilizations. But we were too far away, too primitive. This ship was our first real attempt to reach the stars. Your first? Asked Yira in amazement. This technology is more advanced than anything we use. Elena's voice carried a note of pride. We were always good at building things. Even when we were destroying our own world, we were still learning, still growing. This ship represents the best of everything we ever created. As Elena spoke, things began happening around the command center. Lights that had been dim grew brighter. Screens that had been dark started to flicker with information. The tall structures around them hummed softly as power flowed through them. The ship is responding to her voice, observed Brixval in wonder. Biometric locks, explained Elena. The ship only fully awakens for authorized personnel, since I am the only one left. The only one left of your entire species? Asked Dr. Hulan gently. I do not know, admitted Elena. Earth might have found other ways to survive, or maybe they sent other ships like this one. But this ship was special. We carried more than just people. What do you mean? Asked Zarathek. Genetic samples, said Elena. Seeds, embryos, DNA from thousands of Earth species. Not just humans, but animals, plants, everything we could save. The ship's computers contain all of our knowledge, our art, our music, our history. Everything that made us who we were. The main screen in front of the captain's chair suddenly came to life. Images flashed across it faster than the team could follow. Pictures of a blue and green world, of creatures they had never seen before, of cities and forests and oceans. Earth, said Elena softly. My home. The images slowed down and focused on one species, bipedal creatures with smooth skin, hair on their heads, and eyes that seemed to hold intelligence and compassion. Humans, said Elena. My people. They look familiar, said Yira quietly. Not like any species I know, but not completely alien, either. We always wondered if we would find people like us out here, said Elena. People who thought like us, who felt like us. We hoped that intelligence and compassion were universal traits. More screens around the command center came to life. They showed star maps, technical diagrams, and streams of data that scrolled too fast to read. The ship is fully awakening now, said Elena. Systems that have been dormant for millennia are coming back online. But there is so much to check, so much to repair. We can help, offered Zarathek. Our ship has repair equipment and technical expertise. You would do that? Asked Elena, surprise clear in her voice. For a stranger? For someone from a species you have never met? It is what we do, said Dr. Hulan. We are archaeologists. But we are also explorers. We believe that knowledge and friendship should be shared. Besides, added Brixval, your technology could teach us many things. And perhaps we can teach you about the galaxy as it is now. Elena was quiet for a long moment, When she spoke again, her voice was warm with gratitude. 50,000 years I have been alone in the dark. I thought I would never hear another voice, never speak to another intelligent being. And now I have found friends. What happened to your crew? Asked Yira gently. You said there was a plague, a disease we picked up from a world we tried to explore, explained Elena. We thought it was safe, but we were wrong. The plague spread through the ship in weeks. One by one, my people died. In the end, it was just me. How did you survive? Asked Dr. Hulon. Genetic immunity, said Elena. Pure luck. I was one of the few humans who could not catch the disease, so I put the others in cryogenic storage hoping to find a cure, but the cure never came. Eventually I had to put myself in emergency stasis too to preserve what was left. And you have been asleep for 50,000 years, said Zarathek. It feels like yesterday, said Elena. But also like forever. I had dreams. Strange dreams, of voices calling to me from far away. Now I know those voices were real. You found me. The command center was now fully alive with light and sound. Displays showed information in the strange human writing, but also in symbols that the team's translators could understand. Elena, said Yira, what do you want to do now? Your mission was to find a colony world, but that was 50,000 years ago. The mission has not changed, said Elena firmly. Earth may be gone, but humanity's legacy lives on in this ship. The genetic samples, the knowledge, the culture, all of it can still be preserved. All of it can still find a new home. We can help you, said Zarathek. The galaxy has many suitable worlds. The consortium has the resources to support a new colony. You would do that? Asked Elena, hope creeping into her voice. We would be honored to help, said Dr. Hulon. Your people may be gone, but their legacy deserves to continue. Elena's voice grew stronger and more determined. Then let us begin. I have slept long enough. It is time to finish what we started 50,000 years ago. Over the next few hours, the ancient ship transformed before their eyes. Systems that had been silent for 50,000 years hummed back to life. Lights grew brighter, screens displayed information, and a gentle warmth began to flow through the corridors. Your ship is incredible, said Brixval, studying the readings on her instruments. The technology is far more advanced than anything we use today. Elena's voice came from speakers throughout the command center now. We had to build it to last. The journey to find a new home was supposed to take hundreds of years, maybe thousands. Everything had to be perfect. Dr. Hulon examined one of the control panels that had come online. The symbols were still foreign, but the ship's computers were slowly translating them into galactic standard. How many people were on this ship originally? 12,000, replied Elena. Scientists, engineers, teachers, artists, farmers. The best and brightest from every nation on Earth. We brought everything we needed to start a new civilization. And they are all gone? Asked Yira softly. In cryogenic storage in the lower levels, said Elena. I kept hoping I could find a cure for the plague, but... Her voice trailed off. I should check on them, it has been so long. The main screen showed a map of the ship. Elena highlighted a section near the bottom. The stasis chambers are there. Would you come with me? I do not want to face this alone. Of course, said Captain Zarathek immediately. They made their way through corridors that were now fully lit and welcoming. As they walked, Elena told them more about her people. Humans were always explorers, she said. We spread across our entire world, even to places that seemed impossible to live. Deserts, frozen lands, high mountains, deep under the ocean. We never stopped trying to go farther. Like us, said Dr. Hulon. Most intelligent species have that drive to explore. But we were also destroyers, Elena continued sadly. We fought wars, polluted our world, used up our resources. We almost destroyed ourselves several times. That is why this mission was so important. It was our chance to start over, to do better. They reached a large elevator that took them deep, into the ship. When the doors opened, they found themselves in a vast chamber filled with thousands of cylindrical pods arranged in neat rows. "The stasis chambers," said Elena quietly. Each pod had a small window. Through the windows they could see the preserved forms of Elena's people, men and women of all ages, their faces peaceful in eternal sleep. Elena's voice was very quiet now. "They look like they are just sleeping, do they not?" Yira checked her instruments. "Captain Elena, I am sorry, there are no life signs. The stasis systems failed long ago." "I know," said Elena. "I have known for thousands of years. The ship's computers told me when each system failed, when each person died. But I kept hoping." They walked between the rows of silent pods. Each one held someone who had volunteered to leave everything behind for a chance at a new life among the stars. "Tell us about them," said Dr. Yulan gently. "Dr. Sarah Chen," said Elena, stopping beside one pod. "She was our best biologist. She designed the genetic storage systems that still work today." She moved to another pod. "Marcus Rodriguez, our chief engineer. He helped design this ship's engines." Another pod. "Lisa Wong, a teacher. She created the educational programs that were supposed to help raise the next generation." They spent an hour walking through the chamber while Elena told them about her lost crew. Each person had a story, a specialty, a reason for being chosen for this incredible journey. "They were heroes," said Elena finally. "All of them. They gave up everything for a dream of saving our species." "Their sacrifice was not meaningless," said Captain Zarathek. "You are still here. The ship is still here. The mission can still succeed." They returned to the command center. Elena activated more systems, showing them the true wonder of human technology. "This is the genetic storage facility," she said, bringing up displays that showed thousands of samples. DNA from every major species on Earth, plants, animals, microorganisms, everything needed to recreate Earth's ecosystem on a new world. "Remarkable," breathed Dr. Hulan. "You saved an entire world's worth of life. And this," said Elena, activating another system, "is the cultural database. Every book ever written, every song ever sung, every work of art ever created. The complete history and knowledge of humanity." The screens filled with images faster than they could process. Paintings, sculptures, music, literature, scientific discoveries, philosophical thoughts, the entire legacy of a species that had dreamed of the stars. "Why did no one ever find you before?" asked Brixval. 50,000. Years is a long time. Other ships must have passed through this area. "We were not originally here," explained Elena. "The ship's navigation systems failed during the plague crisis. We drifted off course and ended up in this empty region of space. We have been invisible, out here between the star systems. But now we have found you," said Yira. "What happens next?" Elena was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was filled with determination. "We finish the mission. We find a suitable world and create a new home for humanity. The genetic samples can be used to grow new humans to bring my people back. The consortium has records of thousands of suitable worlds," offered Dr. Hulan. "Planets that could support Earth-type life. But there is more," said Elena. "I have been studying your languages, your cultures, your history through your ship's databases. The galaxy has changed so much since we began this journey. There are great civilizations now, peaceful cooperation between species. This is what we always hoped to find." "The Galactic Archaeological Consortium represents over 200 species," said Captain Zarathek. "We work together to explore and understand the galaxy's history. Then humanity could join this community," said Elena excitedly. "Not as conquerors or destroyers, but as equals, as friends." "You would be welcomed," assured Dr. Hulan. "Your technology alone would be invaluable. But more than that, your story of perseverance and hope would inspire every species in the galaxy." Elena activated the ship's main engines for the first time in millennia. The horizon's promise shuddered slightly as massive systems came online. "Where should we go?" asked Elena. Brixval pulled up star charts on her portable computer. There is a system about 6 light-years from here, 3 planets in the habitable zone, one of them very similar to your Earth. Oceans, continents, breathable atmosphere. And it is uninhabited, added Dr. Hulon. Perfect for a new colony. How long to get there? Asked Elena. With our ship. About 2 months, said Captain Zarathek. But your ship? This ship was built for long journeys, said Elena proudly. We could be there in 3 weeks. Then let us go together, suggested Yira. Our ship can escort you. We can help you prepare for colonization. Elena's voice grew warm with gratitude. 50,000 years ago, my people launched themselves into the unknown, hoping to find intelligent life that would welcome them. Today, that hope has finally been fulfilled. The command center's main display showed both ships, the sleek Kethmaran and the massive Horizon's Promise, preparing to leave their position in the void. There is one more thing, said Elena. The consortium should know that humanity never gave up, even when our world was dying, even when our crew was lost, even when I was alone in the darkness for 50,000 years. We never stopped believing that our dream could come true. That is the most human thing of all, said Dr. Hulon thoughtfully, never giving up hope. It is what made us explorers, agreed Elena. It is what brought us to the stars. And now, it is what will make us citizens of the galaxy. Both ships began moving toward their destination. Behind them, the empty space, where the Horizon's Promise had drifted for so long, was dark and silent once again. But ahead of them lay the promise of a new world, a new beginning, and the rebirth of a species that had refused to let their dream die. Captain Elena, said Yira as they traveled, what do you think your people would say if they could see this moment? Elena's voice was soft but proud. They would say we finally made it home. 3 weeks later, 2 ships emerged from hyperspace near a beautiful blue and green world. The planet hung in space like a jewel, with white clouds swirling over vast oceans and brown continents. It looks like Earth, said Elena softly, her voice filled with wonder. Not exactly the same, but similar enough. Captain Zarathek studied the readings from both ships. Perfect atmosphere, correct gravity, abundant water. This world could support human life easily. And no signs of intelligent life, added Dr. Hulon. You would not be displacing anyone by settling here. The Horizon's Promise and the Kethmaran moved into orbit around the planet. Elena had spent the 3-week journey learning everything she could about the modern galaxy, while the consortium team had studied human technology and culture. The genetic laboratories are ready, reported Elena. I can begin growing the first new humans within days. The artificial wombs can support dozens of pregnancies at once. How long before you have a real population? Asked Brixval. 20 years for the first generation to reach adulthood, said Elena. But I will not be alone during that time. The ship's computers can create virtual reality environments where I can interact with artificial personalities based on my old crew. And now I have friends from the stars. Yira had been monitoring galactic communications during their journey. Captain Elena, I have wonderful news. Word of your discovery has spread throughout the consortium. Scientists from dozens of worlds want to come here and help establish your colony. Really? Elena's voice brightened with excitement. More than that, added Dr. Hulon. The Consortium Council has voted unanimously to grant humanity full membership status. You will be the first human ambassador to the galactic community. Elena was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. My people dreamed of this day for so long, to know that we would be welcomed, not feared or rejected. Your story has inspired everyone, said Captain Zarathek. A species that refused to give up hope, even when faced with extinction. Technology advanced enough to preserve an entire world's genetic heritage. A lone survivor who kept their mission alive for 50,000 years. These are the qualities the galaxy values most. They spent the next few days surveying the planet and choosing the best location for the first human settlement. Elena selected a large continent with rivers, forests, and fertile plains. We will call it New Earth, she announced. But this world will be different from the old one. We will learn from our mistakes. How so? Asked Dr. Hulon. No wars, said Elena firmly. No pollution, no waste of resources. Humans will live in harmony with the planet and all its creatures. We will build cities that work with nature, not against it. The consortium can help with that, offered Brixval. We have environmental technologies from hundreds of worlds, clean energy, sustainable farming, efficient recycling systems. And we can share human innovations too, said Elena. Our medical technology, our engineering techniques, our artistic traditions. The galaxy will benefit from human creativity, just as humanity will benefit from galactic wisdom. The first construction robots from the Horizon's Promise landed on the planet's surface. They began building the infrastructure for a new civilization, power plants, laboratories, living spaces, and the genetic facilities where the first new humans would be grown. Elena, said Yira one evening as they watched the sunset over New Earth from the ship's observation deck. Are you nervous about bringing your people back? Terrified, Elena admitted. I am the only human left who remembers the old Earth. I will be responsible for teaching the next generation about who we were and who we can become. You will not be alone, assured Dr. Hulon. The consortium is committed to helping humanity find its place in the galaxy. We will provide teachers, advisors, whatever you need. And there is something else, added Captain Zarathek. The Council has decided to establish a permanent research station here. Scientists from across the galaxy will come to study human genetics and culture. New Earth will become a center of learning. Elena smiled, the first truly happy expression any of them had heard in her voice. My crew would have loved that. They were all teachers at heart, eager to share knowledge and learn from others. Over the following weeks, ships began arriving from across the galaxy. Scientists, engineers, teachers, and diplomats came to witness the rebirth of humanity. The orbital space around New Earth became busy with vessels from dozens of different species. Look at that, said Elena, watching the traffic on the main screen. The first humans have not even been born yet, and already we are part of something bigger than ourselves. The first genetic samples were activated in the ship's laboratories. In artificial wombs designed with 50,000 years of advanced technology, human embryos began to develop. The first new humans in millennia were growing toward life. 12 embryos in the first batch, reported Elena. 6 males, 6 females, genetic diversity carefully selected to prevent inbreeding in future generations. What will you name them? Asked Yira. Hope, said Elena immediately. The first girl will be named Hope, and the first boy will be called Future. The others, I think I will let them choose their own names when they are old enough. Dr. Hulon had been studying the cultural database. Elena, the amount of knowledge preserved in your ship's computers is staggering. Literature, music, scientific theories, philosophical ideas. It will take scholars centuries to study it all. That was always the plan, said Elena. We knew that if we survived, we would need to rebuild not just our bodies but our souls. Art and music and stories are what make us human, and now they will enrich the entire galaxy, said Captain Zarathek. Human creativity combined with galactic technology will produce wonders we cannot imagine. The construction on New Earth's surface was proceeding rapidly. The first city was taking shape, a beautiful blend of human architectural principles and alien building techniques. Gardens and parks were integrated into every structure, reflecting Elena's commitment to harmony with nature. The first schools are almost ready, reported Brixval. When the children are old enough, they will learn not just human knowledge, but the wisdom of 200 galactic species. They will be the first truly galactic humans, mused Elena. Citizens not just of Earth or New Earth, but of the entire galaxy. 6 months after their arrival, Elena stood in the ship's medical bay watching the first new human in 50,000 years take her first breath. The baby was perfect, healthy, alert, and curious about the world around her. Hello, Hope, whispered Elena, tears streaming down her face as she held the infant. Welcome to the galaxy. Around the medical bay stood representatives from a dozen different species, all watching in wonder as humanity returned to life. Dr. Hulon's crystal body glowed with joy. Brixval's compound eyes were bright with excitement. Yira's blue skin shimmered with emotion. Captain Zarathek smiled with the satisfaction of a mission completed. "Elena," said the captain softly, "what do you think your original crew would say if they could see this moment?" Elena looked up from the baby in her arms, her face radiant with hope and pride. "They would say we finally made it. We finally found our home among the stars." Through the medical bay's windows, New Earth turned slowly below them. The first human city sparkled in the sunlight, surrounded by forests and rivers and the promise of a future brighter than any dream. "And this is just the beginning," said Elena, looking down at Little Hope. 50,000 years ago, humanity reached for the stars. Today, we finally caught them. The baby gurgled softly, and Elena laughed, the first truly joyful sound she had made in millennia. Around them, the representatives of the galactic community welcomed humanity home. In the years that followed, Hope and the other new humans would grow up as citizens of a vast galactic civilization. They would carry forward the best of their species' legacy while learning from the wisdom of hundreds of other worlds. The dream that had launched the Horizon's promise 50,000 years ago had finally come true. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors or outcasts, but as friends, teachers, and partners in the greatest adventure of all, the ongoing story of intelligent life in the galaxy. And in the depths of space, other ancient ships drifted silently between the stars, carrying their own sleeping dreamers toward destinies yet unknown. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders still waiting to be discovered.